Hello everyone, my name is Onur and I'm a semester 3 cybersecurity student at the Fontes Hogeschool. In this video I'll be covering what changes I've applied to my network since my last video, as well as some few other subjects. The first change I wanted to highlight is I do have two OpenVPN implementations running on my network right now, instead of having just one. The reason for this is if I connect to my first OpenVPN, it would simply just give me access to my DMZ. Let's say I have some developers working externally and they're building my website or whatever. I want to give them access to my DMZ so they can do whatever they need to do there, but I don't want to give them access to the rest of my network, like my clients and my servers. Right. The second OpenVPN implementation gives you connectivity to my entire network. Now I could change this. I could say that you only get to the client network and to the DMZ network. However, just for the simplicity of my own home network, I thought this would be the most logical to apply. How I do this is pretty interesting. Like I've set up some port forwarding on the firewall 01 to the second firewall if something goes to like the specified port of my second OpenVPN implementation. Right, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to demonstrate this using my VM machine that's hooked up to private internet access. Basically, my machine is in Manchester right now by its IP address. This way the demonstration is a bit more realistic, I thought. Right, so let's first connect to the first firewall. Yeah, I'm afraid of showing my external IP, so I just click the menu away. I'm just waiting for it now to connect to the VPN, and it is connected. And this is my firewall. I've already logged in, so that's why it didn't show me the login screen. Right, what I want to show you right now is technically my second firewall should be running on the 10.0.1.1.1.1 network, or alternatively this IP address, which is the exit towards the VLAN 10. Right, we don't have access to it, which is intentional. However, once we connect to the second firewall VPN configuration, I forgot to disconnect the first one, my bad. Right, now we just wait for the second firewall to connect. Rightio. We still have access to the first firewall, and here goes the second firewall as well. As well as the other networks, which the production environments and whatnot. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, those are pretty much the OpenVPN implementation changes I've made. What I've done as well is I've made one website, and my website is pretty much running in my DMZ environment right now. Alright, this is the website. It wouldn't surprise me if by the time you look at this website it will look a bit different. This website also has a certificate. It's a valid one this time. I've used Let's Encrypt. It's really simple to set up Let's Encrypt. It pretty much uses some kind of technique to like verify if you are the person who owns the domain name oksolution.nl, for example. It sends like a message and sees if the message arrives at the correct IP address itself, and it did. So yeah, the certification was pretty easy to get. I've ran some tests. It apparently is an A certification. You can get higher, but that's pretty much by not supporting less encrypted methods and whatnot. Yeah, making this website was pretty fun. The things that I get with this website is it's actually pretty funny. Like whenever I start my PC up, my pfSense is booted up and my Apache is booted up, and those two barely use any resources, so you can pretty much just host your own site if you use Windows, like a modern version of Windows and Hyper-V for pretty much nothing at all, if you have like enough RAM at all. So that's like an interesting thing. Like, let's say you want to web host somewhere else, that's also possible. Like, the thing I get is whenever I turn on my PC, my website goes down as well, but it isn't really important to me if my website stays up 24/7. So maybe you might be interested in doing something like this as well. If you want to set up multiple websites on your network, you may want to look into reverse proxy, however. Right, my firewall reconfiguration. So I've changed some rules in my second firewall. I'm not connected. 1 moment. What I've changed is pretty much that you're able to connect from the client network to my server network. My server network is able to connect to my client network and outside. However, outside isn't allowed to connect to my server network. I'm not sure if that's gonna cause some problems or not, depending on the server you're running. I suppose it could, but that's the most advanced thing I thought I could set up my firewall with, other than just blanket banning everything. This way, my users won't be that annoyed, I think, or I hope, and they could still do their work pretty normally. Yeah, the client network can pretty much do anything as long as it's from the client network. And here you can see that if the source is from itself, it can go everywhere. If the source is from the firewall 02, which is pretty much the second LAN, which means the client network LAN, they can do anything in a server LAN. But however, you can't do anything from the outside to the inside. So that's the intention of my firewall rule. Alright, I thought I should also cover a bit about risk analysis. Risk analysis can be applied to almost every IT company out there. That's why the questions that come with risk analysis are pretty global and non-specific. Me, as an engineer, I like specific things, but this is more about the management side of security, in my opinion. I found a checklist online, and I thought I should highlight a few of those questions or tasks or whatever. So the first one is, are risks from third-party access identified and appropriate security controls implemented? This basically means that whoever gains access to your DMZ, to your client network, to your server network, what type of risk do they carry with them? What type of danger could they expose to my network if they gain access? And I think it's very important for any IT administrator to think about that. Especially the separation of your networking levels and what type of danger is involved when you give people access. The second thing I thought I should highlight is, do employees sign confidentiality or non-disclosure agreements as a part of their initial terms and conditions of the employment and annually thereafter? This basically means that, let's say you have an IT supporting staff and he's remote desktoping to some employee who's working on some big Bloomberg charts, and you can basically predict what the future holding is going to be or whatever. The employee could not use that information himself if it's properly described in a non-disclosure agreements. Especially things like password management and very risky things like that, they need to be kept under wraps. And it's important for you as an IT administrator to look at the non-disclosure agreements and look at the details of it. This third one is like I said, it's a pretty global and it's a pretty general one. But there are a few things that, especially like theft, I should highlight. Like, how do people gain access to your server room? How do people gain access to where your clients are keeping their laptops or whatever? You should really think about that and implement the proper security control. Right. The fourth thing I wanted to highlight is, are storage devices containing sensitive information either physically destroyed or securely overwritten? This is a pretty big one as well. Once you dispose storage devices, you should really properly destroy them and not just write them over and reuse them or whatever. Unless you do it securely. Alright. Does the security policy identify any operating procedures such as backup, equipment maintenance, etc.? This is also important. Your IT staff or your IT environment needs a backup solution, and you will have to like document the way how you do this, and also with equipment maintenance, like maybe you want to give your clients laptops for 4 years and then you want to replace them, stuff like that. That's really it's a big thing that you need to consider with management and yeah, the director boards, whatever. Does an incident management procedure exist to handle security threats, incidents? This is also pretty important, but again, it's more on the management side of things. Most of risk analysis is on the management side of things. What I've seen mostly happen is people who are working on risk analysis, they usually are trying to gain some sort of ISO certification for that network. And that only happens, to be honest, once you're in a certain type of field, like a financial institution or whatever, and your partners require that you have that certification. A few interesting things about myself and the risk analysis or whatever risk assessment checklist. At my workplace, we use a YubiKey in order to secure two-factor authentication. We have ports set up all around the office that you need to check against if you want to continue, and that basically restricts physical access and things like that. Yeah, so that was my portion risk analysis. I hope you had fun watching this video. Until next time.